Dr. Anders, this is Reggie Williams. I have three colleagues from my counseling class. I am now giving my presentation on the achievement gap. Okay, I did my PowerPoint presentation on a case study of one elementary school called Maintaining the Success Towards Closing the Achievement Gap. So Copper Hills Elementary School. The definition of the achievement gap. The definition of the achievement gap is achievement of gap refers to the observed disparity on the number of educational measures between the performance of groups of students, regardless of their gender or their ethnicity. Okay. In the history of the achievement gap, it goes back to the foundations of how it began. Brown versus Board of Education, which was about a young African American girl who dad wanted her to be in an integrated school, but Alabama, where this was taking place of, refused to have her in that school. So he filed a complaint and a civil suit against the state of Alabama, which is known now to us as Brown versus Board of Education. Brown versus Board of Education then was a gateway to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to help everybody understand how the minorities, especially back in 1964, the African Americans, needed to be treated fairly. Now, when we go into Mendez versus Westminster, it's about Mendez is a father who filed a suit with 5 other fathers in Westminster School District, which is located down in Orange County, approximately 20 years ago, where they wanted the Hispanic students did not speak English correctly at all, or they could, but it's broken English. And what they did was the school district thought that they didn't have enough time for that, so they asked them to build their own school for the Hispanics only, and that was segregation on the Orange County aspect. So what that did was led us to the Bliss Bill. Okay, and the Bliss Bill was just like intertwining the Bliss Bill with the Mendez versus Westminster to make sure that it doesn't happen again amongst other Hispanics or amongst other ethnicity groups at all. Okay, any questions? Okay. The research methodology that I used in my thesis and on this PowerPoint presentation are the factors that contribute to narrowing the achievement gap for Copper Hills was the community involvement. There's a lot of parents that's always interacting in schools, wondering how their children are doing. There's great teacher-student relationships. If they have any questions at all, the teachers are always there to help the kids out. And like I said in the beginning of this research methodology, there is a lot of parental involvement at Copper Hills Elementary School. Some of the research study framework I use with the performance gaps are the knowledge. The teachers have the knowledge, and the parents also have the knowledge, also to help and maintain what's going on with the school. They have great motivational causes. Some of the motivational causes that they have would be to, let's say, AR points, AR readings. Advanced readings. So there's a certain percentage you get, and you can get like a Spartanian award? Spartanian award for that. And the organizational causes are basically like, what do they have, what's lined up. They got AR stuff, they have the, AR, and a couple clubs too as well. The research design I use in this to make this qualitative study were surveys, interviews, data, the validity and the credibility, data analysis, and the summary. And these are the ones that I'll be going down and talking about. Amongst the interviews I talked to 5 teachers from various grade levels, and all of them had a consensus saying whatever it takes attitude to help the kids learn. Copper Hills has a great PLC community, professional learning community. They all integrate with each other to make sure they help each other get on the pace and levels that they need to be on to continue to teach the children of how to maintain their success of closing the achievement gap. The validity and credibility was aligned with the research questions and factors. Some of the cultural norms they use are basically like they're much involved. The students and the teachers are much involved by establishing the cultural norms and making it a friendly environment to learn. And the kids are always coming in there to learn as well. We have a great program with the students with disabilities. They try to integrate students with disabilities with the regular student body. And these are practiced every time, every day, excuse me. In summary, the factors that have contributed to their achievement gap are the programs, again, the parents who are very much involved as well, and the community, and the TLC, the professional learning community. The overview of the case study, we use a data triangulation, which involves using different sources of information in order to increase the validity of the study. In extension, these sources are likely to be stakeholders in the program, participants, other researchers, program staff, and other community members, and so on. Some of the classroom observations that I witnessed with academic focus. The walls were engaging, meaning there were positive messages in the classroom. Academic work was displayed, and there's also was an assignment agenda. Meaning they would give opportunities, they were telling kids of what's due and when it needs to be turned into foresight. Like I said here, the cultural norms, shared leadership, collaborative planning, data-driven decision making, and high expectations. Here's where it gets really interesting. The API and the AYP. API means Performance Index, and the AYP is the annual yearly report. For the API, you see that the minimum to get good, the minimum is 800. Well, Copper Hills exceeded 800 in 2011, 2012. I'm sorry, the school, California, was low, 2011, 2012. Okay. Now, if you look over here, the growth this year, 2011 to 2012, Copper Hills school was down 2 points. Okay. The language the language learning was up 9, was right where it needs to be. In California was up basically 10. This was down 2. Now, this is what I found out was really interesting. The English language arts percent at or above proficient. The proficient line is the green right here. Okay. Here's what really caught my eye. The African American students were 54.5% below proficiency levels for the AYP. But if you take the biracial kids, they're off the chart at 95.2%. Age was at 85, school-wide was 81.9. And the questions you ask is like, why do we have the achievement gap? Because students with disabilities, they're getting better, but when we look at this right here, as opposed to everybody else, that means there's still some work to be done. Now the question goes, what's wrong with it? How did it get to that point? Basically, it could be community involvement, it could be parent involvement, it could be amongst a number of things. And be continued in the mathematics area. African Americans are 63.6%. And if you look on the two or more races, it's 100% above proficiency. You know, it's just there's a disconnect in the African Americans trying to get to the proficiency level. And again, it could be because of the parent involvement. It could be because of the community involvement. It could be amongst a number of things. Okay. And the summary is, with the rise in ethnic minority populations, including those that speak English as a second language, and a growing socio-economically disadvantaged population, it is very important that educators move toward transforming school culture and its influence on school practices that include collaboration and shared leadership will be the dynamic that will change education with at least economic impact. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.